Financial independence is nothing more than doing something everyone else is hopefully planning on doing, which is retiring, but speeding up the process. To do that, there are sacrifices that need to be made today to achieve this type of lifestyle. You cannot spend money based on your current income, and you'll have to invest more than the average person. You have to give more today if you want to be able to take at an age that is younger than what is currently considered the full retirement age. In this video, I'm going to break down the 4 styles of financial independence retire early to give you an idea of what your life could look like depending on which one you're aiming for. To help explain these 4 types of financial independence retire early, we're going to use 3 high school buddies named Larry, Barry, and Jerry. We're also going to talk about their friend Nancy as well, because I want you to see what kind of lifestyle that she is living. And to be honest with you, I think that I actually fell in love with Nancy while I was making her story up for this video. I really like her. Hey, I'm Jarrad with an A, and on this channel we talk about all things personal finance, investing, and we try to have some fun in the process. Make sure that you hit that notification bell once you subscribe, because YouTube sometimes forgets to tell you when I release new videos. Let's set some ground rules before diving in. Just to be clear, the normal line of thinking is that as long as you have 25 to 30 times the amount that you want to live on every year, then you're good to go. That will allow you to safely withdraw 4% from your investments for at least 30 years. This is said to be true no matter which one of these 4 categories that you fall into. I'm going to attempt to throw specific numbers into each of these 4 situations just to give you some guidelines. Now, everyone's situation is going to be different depending on many different factors, but I at least wanted to take a stab at outlining everything to help you think through this enormous world of financial independence retire early. As I go through each one, let me know in the comments down below which type of FIRE appeals to you the most. First up, we have Larry, who is pursuing lean FIRE. I'd consider this the riskiest of them all, but there's still people who are good with this type of lifestyle, and Larry is one of those people. Someone who is living that lean FIRE lifestyle looks like this. They earn $40,000 or less per year through income generated from their investments. And this could be anything from withdrawing from an investment account, a business that passively earns an income, something like cash flow from real estate, or anything like that. Whatever it is needs to be as stable as possible due to the small room for error that's already baked into this lifestyle. Ideally, someone who is lean FIRE wouldn't have any debt. The more debt that they have at this stage, the riskier life becomes in general. Missing a debt payment due to an unforeseen circumstance can send someone like Larry right back to work, which is what we are trying to avoid with financial independence and early retirement. Living on $40,000 per year without debt is easier to do than it is living on $40,000 per year with debt. Larry needs to watch his expenses since he's trying to live off such a low amount, so he really needs to embrace a do-it-yourself mentality. If the car needs to be fixed, then Larry isn't dishing out the money to take it to a shop down the street. When things need to be done around the house, then Larry will be getting his hands very dirty. Luckily, he has a ton of time on his hands, so he'll most likely have to spend money on the materials and spend his time working on that project. Frugality will have to be Larry's new middle name. Things will have to be given up or altered to cut expenses wherever possible. Now, this could look something like being a 1-car family, riding a bike, walking or using public transportation. Hopefully that bus he's taking will allow him to carry on a few pieces of drywall from Lowe's, since the dog accidentally fell into the wall and made a big old hole that now needs repaired. Larry is going to become a regular at the local bar to get his frugal little fingers on that free happy hour food a couple of nights a week. He's also probably going to be spending a day or 2 per week walking the aisles of the local grocery store to fill up on those free samples that they have. Please don't get annoyed with Larry when you invite him over to an event at your place and he leaves with pockets filled up with dinner rolls and various cheeses. To keep general expenses low, someone pursuing lean FIRE will have to live in a very low cost of living city. Think of states like the Midwest to find cheaper places to live. Another option could be to do some sort of geo arbitrage. This is where you would move to a country that is less expensive than the cheapest city in the United States. Larry is going to have to think about these types of sacrifices to maintain his lifestyle. Moving out of the country sounds more ideal to me if I was pursuing lean fire. Yes, you can have children while being lean fire, but it's going to be really tight for obvious reasons. The US Department of Agriculture reported back in 2017 that the cost of raising one child from birth to 17 is about $233,000. That's a lot of donuts. We all know that kids are expensive, and I'm not knocking having children at all, but I think we can all admit that they're another expense that you have to realistically account for. For this reason, you may not be able to be financially independent like you want to, or you might just not be able to have kids at all. Yes, I know that there are many ways to lower the cost of your little monsters, and if you have some ideas, then don't let that stop you. I mean, somehow my mom was able to raise 4 kids on her own. Don't get me wrong, we were pretty effing poor, like living on food stamps, welfare, and the recipients of canned food drives. While we didn't even have a quarter of everything we wanted, we all managed to grow up to be pretty productive humans in society. That obviously had more to do with how my mom raised us and less to do with the amount of money she was able to spend on us. So shout out to my mom, she's the best. Healthcare is an issue looming over the head of someone who is lean fire. This expense is insanely expensive in the United States. It is absolutely nuts at how much we are charged every year, and most of us don't even realize it because our employer covers all of the costs. To get around this, you'd for sure have to move to a different country where you can get medical issues handled by lower cost doctors. Now, you could also think about traveling to a different country for medical procedures, but since you're already living on such a small amount, this probably isn't as feasible as it sounds. Another option would be to have your partner continue to work so you can hop on their medical plan. Now, hopefully you're good at selling, because it might take a lot of convincing to talk your significant other into going to work while you party all day. I'm just kidding. Your partner might actually enjoy their job, so I could see this working out depending on your situation. But they would still have to be okay with that. Before I move on, let me point out that the place that you live can drastically change the type of fire category you fall into. If you're Larry pulling in $40,000 per year, but you live in an extremely low cost of living place like out of the country, then you could potentially be living one of the fire lifestyles we're about to talk about, which is of course a higher level of fire. If you haven't done it already, please Hulk smash that thumbs up button because it helps support my dog Molly, myself, and this channel as well. Barry is like one of those hipsters who works at a coffee shop. He's usually a very pleasant individual, but it's pretty obvious when Mr. Barry hasn't had his first cup of coffee that day, because he'll get a little bit upset when you ask him to explain to you what in the world is a Tim Tam Slam. I'm just kidding for all my hipsters and coffee baristas out there. Barry is a sweetheart. Someone who is into the Barista FIRE lifestyle looks like this. Income ranges between $41,000 and $70,000 per year, which isn't too bad. Doesn't seem too bad on the surface. Now, on the higher end, to simplify this example, that means that you'd need about $1.75 million for a 4% per year withdrawal rate to hit that $70,000 per year. Barry is feeling a little bit more confident than Larry is. When it comes to debt, it depends on where you fall within this range. Having zero debt would be the best case scenario, but having a little bit left on your mortgage might be okay here. A lot of it's going to depend on what we're about to talk about next. Barry has enough money to cover his housing, food, transportation, and other regular day-to-day expenses. Now, depending on how much debt he has, he probably has some money left over every single month. The only thing that's a little questionable is how Barry is going to pay for healthcare. Shelling out a few $100s every month could really put a squeeze on his finances overall. Now, because of this, he'd have to work part-time at a place that offers medical benefits. This is where the barista word comes into play with Barista FIRE. The most well-known company that offers medical plans to part-time employees is Starbucks. There are many other companies that offer this sort of perk to their employees, like Chipotle, Costco, Staples, Lowe's, and Home Depot are the ones that I know of off the top of my head. The whole working part-time thing might not be that bad of a gig at all. Less stress and less responsibility than a full-time job. Barry would have to fill the hours of his week doing something, so he could consider this 20 hours per week kind of like his social time where he can get paid and have access to a decent health plan. There's still the potential that one day those medical plans could be cut. In 2019, Whole Foods, who was purchased by Amazon, announced that they would be cutting medical benefits to 1,900 of their part-time employees. I'm not mentioning this to incite any fear, but you have to keep in mind that this outcome is a possibility if you're relying on an employer to cover your health plan while working part-time. Just like Lean Fire, you could also have a significant other that continues to work after you leave your job, so that's always an option. Even though it's still kinda tight, Barista FIRE makes it a little easier for Barry to have children if he wants them. Since there's a little extra income around, he could make it work if he really had to. Now, there probably wouldn't be enough money left over every month to set aside for their college, but that's just a sacrifice that you'll have to make with this type of lifestyle. Frugality is something Barry is still going to have to keep in mind. Luckily, he spent years living frugally while saving up to reach financial independence, retire early, so this should be a non-issue. He'd be able to upgrade a little bit, not a ton, and move to a low to mid cost of living state. I wouldn't say that he should really consider moving out of the country, but if he wanted to, then his money would go a lot further than it would here in the United States. Barry could even think about moving overseas for a short period of time, then plan on moving back to the States at some point in the future. If he's pulling less from his investments since he's living in a lower cost country, then realistically his money should be able to grow a little bit faster, and then once he decided to come back to the United States, who knows, he might at that point be bumped up into this next FIRE lifestyle that we're about to talk about. Larry, Barry, and Jerry have a smart, beautiful, funny friend named Nancy. Now, Nancy has decided to go the normal FIRE route. She kind of laughs at these three guys because they are all over the spectrum of financial independence, retire early. Now, Nancy has decided that she doesn't need a lot to be happy, but she also doesn't want to have to make a ton of sacrifices. Here's what Nancy's lifestyle looks like. Nancy's income in her financial independence years is between about $70,000 and $110,000 per year. That's a pretty decent amount for the average lifestyle that she wants to lead. Nancy never wants to have to say no to spending a little extra cash on a fun experience, like heading out to Colorado for a week to enjoy some outdoor activities with her girlfriends, but she's also very conscious about how buying things just to buy things will not make her happy. $70,000 to $110,000 per year makes her very self-sustainable. She technically wouldn't have to work for money if she didn't want to, and could most likely afford the monthly medical costs that we all face. Nancy actually doesn't have any debt, but if she wanted to sell her current home to buy another house and take out a small mortgage in the process, then she wouldn't sweat it. Since she has a little extra cash lying around every month, she could even purchase a rental property to turn it into a project that could pass the time and also make her some money over the long run. Nancy could definitely have at least one child for sure. Now, she might have to make a few sacrifices since more of her money is going to raising a kid, but once he or she is grown, then Nancy will have some extra cash in her pockets. We already know that Nancy is a really level-headed and smart person, so she'd probably have her kids working as early as possible to teach them the importance of hard work and how to manage their own money. This will of course cost her less money because the kids will be paying for more things on their own. Isn't Nancy so smart? Frugality is a part of Nancy's DNA after pursuing FIRE for years, but she prefers to be a little bit more mindful of her spending. She's not going to be trying to catch rainwater to drink for the week, and she's definitely not going to be one of those people that are heading to the local grocery store to eat food samples for dinner. Oh, and she also doesn't want to have to use coupons if she doesn't want to. When it comes to where she lives, Nancy can't realistically afford to live in a high cost of living area. She could probably get away with it, but there wouldn't be much money left over every single month. Working on the side is an option to make this happen, but Nancy isn't willing to give up her laid-back lifestyle to be closer to the beach or a big city like New York. Like I said, I think I'm in love with Nancy and I just made her up. Now we need to talk about their friend Jerry. Sometimes he refers to himself as J-Man, Big J, Jarrad, and he even used to ask his girlfriends to call him, wait for it, Jerbear. Jerry used to be a weirdo. Jerry has chosen to embrace that fat FIRE lifestyle because he enjoys living life to the max. He wants to be able to do all of the things without having to think twice about it. This is what a Fat FIRE lifestyle would look like. Jerry's income would be anything above about $110,000 per year. For example, if he wanted to be able to safely withdraw $160,000 per year, then he would need about $4 million in investments. For most people's standards, one or even two people living off of $160,000 per year is a pretty healthy lifestyle. It would even be pretty good for a family as well. If you couldn't tell, Jerry is more comfortable than all three of his friends, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that either. He saved up enough to be able to live this lifestyle that he wants. With Fat FIRE, you can most definitely handle carrying debt. Yes, you can absolutely get crazy and overspend where you're still pretty poor on $160,000, but I'm assuming that if you went through this process of financial independence, retire early, then you're above average when it comes to doing smart things with your money. If Jerry didn't have any debt, then he would feel insanely wealthy. I mean, not Jeff Bezos wealthy, because anyone could easily blow through any amount of income that they have pretty easily, but just enough to feel like you can handle anything that comes your way. Having children on a Fat FIRE income is extremely attainable. Someone who wants this lifestyle is willing to pay some money to send their kids to, we'll say, a private school, and even set money aside for their future education as well. Fat FIRE is the goal, so frugality isn't something that Jerry wants to have to worry about. He wanted to be able to spend money on convenience so he didn't have to feel like he was pinching pennies to stretch his dollar just a little bit further. As your income increases, the more likely it is that you can live anywhere in the country. Fat FIRE affords you the ability to live on the coasts of California or even move to New York City. Money for a home, it's a non-issue. Jerry could quite literally live anywhere in the world with his income. Nowhere is off limits. The cost of healthcare isn't a problem either. Someone who is Fat FIRE can easily afford the higher tiered health coverage for themselves and their family. There's a ton of major perks to pursuing Fat FIRE. For example, Jerry is able to travel 4 or 5 times more than the average person can. He also has the extra money to pay for Larry, Barry, and Nancy if he decides that he wants to take them on a friendcation. Some people might call this the snobby version of FIRE, but I disagree. And if you're one of those people, shut up and go away. I think this is great if people can get to this level. At least they're being very open and honest with the type of lifestyle that they want to live. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on these 4 types of financial independence, retire early. I'd love to hear from you. Check out the top video on different ways to build at least a $1 million portfolio and the bottom one on how to save at least $40,000 per year. In the description, I have playlists and resources to help with all of your personal finance and investing needs, as well as a copy of my free investing platform guide. Make sure to Hulk smash that thumbs up button. I'll see you in the next one, friends. Adios.